Good morning, students. Today we will be talking about semi-adjustable articulators. An articulator is a mechanical device representing the temporomandibular joint and the jaw members to which the maxillary and mandibular cars are attached to simulate jaw movements. The purpose of an articulator, therefore, is to hold the maxillary and mandibular cars to perform opening and closing movements and also border and other intra-border movements. The articulator is extremely useful to diagnose the occlusion of a patient, to provide or formulate a treatment plan, to provide a treatment processes for the patient, including arrangement of the artificial teeth, and also to correct restorations. Articulators are divided into three classes: non-adjustable articulators, semi-adjustable articulators, and fully adjustable articulators. Non-adjustable articulators are articulators that provide a fixed movement of opening and closing alone. They have fixed condylar paths and fixed incisal tables which cannot be adjusted or modified. They are the simplest and most basic types of articulators. Semi-adjustable articulators are articulators that have adjustable protrusive condylar paths, adjustable horizontal condylar paths, adjustable incisal guide tables, and sometimes even adjustable intercondylar distances. Fully adjustable articulators are articulators that can be fully adjusted to perform all kinds of mandibular movements. Instead of the condylar guidance, they have receptacles into which acrylic dough can be used to customize the patient's movements according to the records obtained from the patient. These are the most advanced types of articulators. This is a Hanau wide view articulator. It is an example of a semi-adjustable articulator and it is most commonly used articulator. It accepts phase 4 transfer and it is capable of hinge movement and lateral movement. Now we will see the parts of this complex design. This is the upper member. It is T-shaped. One arm runs anterior-posteriorly, the other arm runs transversely. The anterior end of the vertical arm has a provision to accept the incisal pin. The condylar guidance is attached to the upper member. In the center of the anterior-posterior arm, there is a dowel This is used to attach the mounting plates. Near these dowels is the orbital indicator. This orbital indicator is a curved metal shaft. It is the anterior reference point for the articulator. The orbital pointer of the phase bow should contact the orbital indicator during articulation. It can be tightened with a thumb screw. Now we will look at the lower member. This is the lower member. At the center of the lower member is again a dowel used to attach the lower mounting plate. The incisal table is located in the anterior end of the horizontal arm. This is the horizontal arm. This is the vertical arm. This vertical arm It slopes outwards and gives a good lingual view. At the top of this vertical arm is a roll pin or auditory pin. It is just a small metal pin projecting outwards, and the earpiece of the face bow will fit into this roll pin. Anterior to the roll pin is the condylar shaft. It is attached 12 to 13 millimeter anterior to the roll pin. The condylar shaft is a cylindrical piece of metal and can freely rotate. At the end of this shaft is a ball. This is a metal ball. It is called as a condylar element. It represents the condyle of the mandible. The condyle of the mandible here, it is attached to the lower member. So it is described as an archon articulator. This is the condylar guidance, which is attached to the upper member of the articulator. It actually represents the glenoid fossa of the patient. It is a very complex assembly. It articulates with the element, condylar element, which is attached to the lower member. This is the round condylar element. So this can be rotated in two axes. One is around a vertical axis. It can be rotated around a vertical axis and also around the coronal axis. So this condylar guidance is a circular structure. It has a slot or track in the center. This track or slot can be opened or closed. This is a closed slot because it has a complete circular frame. Whereas an open slot will be open at one end and it will be a U-shaped frame. The open slot helps for easy removal and reattachment of the upper member. This inclination of the condylar track can be customized for each patient using a pantograph or records obtained from graphic tracing. The posterior end of the condylar track has what is called as a centric stop. It stops the condylar element when the condylar element hits against it. So right at the back, that is the condylar stop. The condylar element once it reaches the condylar stop cannot move any further back. The condylar guidance can be rotated around the vertical axis like this, and this is the calibration for the Bennett angle from 0 to 30. This Bennett angle is determined by a formula which is L is equal to h by 8 plus 12, where h is the protrusive angle. The protrusive angulation is determined by calibration on the condylar element visible over here from 0 to 20 and from 0 to 50. This is determined by centric and protrusive records obtained from the graphic tracing. Next, we have the incisal guidance. The incisal guidance rests on the platform of the lower member. There is a rectangular flat strip of metal in the center which generates incisal guidance. The incisal guidance can be adjusted anteroposteriorly. This is for a protrusive incisal guidance. It can be adjusted from 0 to 40 or 60 degrees, and then after it has been adjusted, it can be locked in place with a lock screw and a lock nut. Also, it has two lateral wings, right and left lateral wings. The inclination of the wings also can be adjusted using the thumb screw and the thumb nut. This can be adjusted from 0 to 45 degrees on either side. This can be used for setting the protrusive and lateral incisal guidance. There is an incisal pin attached to the upper member. There is a set of closely spaced markings on the upper end. These markings are thin markings and then a central thick marking. The central thick marking is usually used for setting the incisal pin. When the vertical relation or vertical dimension at occlusion is being changed, when we are opening or closing the bite, it is useful for opening and closing the bite in the articulator. The incisal pin has two ends, a chisel end which is usually used with the adjustable guide table, and a rounded end which is used with a customizable incisal guide table. There are two markings on the other end of the incisal pin. One marking is 37 millimeters from the Frankfurt's horizontal plane, and the other is 54 millimeters away from the Frankfurt's horizontal plane. These are anterior reference point while articulating the occlusal rim and setting the incisal edge of the maxillary central incisors using a face bow. When the 37 millimeter marking is used, it results in a flat or horizontal occlusal plane, and when the 54 marking suggested by Frank and Mark is used, it results in a steeper inclined occlusal plane. Before we start with programming of the articulator, we should do what is called as zeroing of the articulator. In zeroing of the articulator, we should make sure the horizontal condylar inclination is set at 30 on both sides, and the Bennett angulation also should be set at 30 on both sides. The protrusive incisal guidance should be set at 0, meaning the incisal guide table should be flat, and the lateral wings also should be set at 0, it should be flat. The chisel end of the incisal pin should be at the center, set at 0 of the incisal guide table. After this, we can do the programming of the articulator with the protrusive and lateral interocclusal records obtained during graphic tracing. These are used to program the articulator, and after programming of the articulator and selecting the L and H and selecting the H value and calculating the L value using the formula L is equal to H by 8 plus 12, then we do arrangement of the anterior teeth. After trial in the patient's mouth and making sure that there is anterior contact, edge to edge relationship, and then setting the canine also and checking the relationship in the patient's mouth, we transfer the rims back to the articulator, and then we adjust the incisal guide table by performing the movement and rotating the table for the anterior posteriorly and adjusting the lateral wing inclination also, so that there is contact of the table to the chisel end during the mandibular movements, after which we complete the setup of the posterior teeth in balanced occlusion.